Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show, guys. We are live here on a Monday morning on the DSM-Media Philadelphia YouTube channel. I'm one half of your host this morning, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel and you want to support, make sure to smash that subscribe button. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. I'm one half of them. Like I said, Dylan Davis. To my left is my main man, Scotty. Happy Monday, man. What is going on?
Happy Monday, my brother. I'm feeling all right coming into this Monday. Trying to have a good Monday despite the news we got to talk about. But happy to be here, man. Happy to get the show kicked off on the right foot this week and get back to the content, man. We got a lot to break down, but not a lot at the same time, if that makes sense. Yeah. We're going to have to get creative over these next couple of weeks. But nonetheless, we got the big news today that we'll get to dive in for the whole time. Obviously,
we're really going to have to get creative now with this news specifically because with the Super Bowl yet to be played, no Eagles off season really, no big news to come from there. The Phillies have ultimately been quiet. The Flyers, I tuned in for one weekend, and that ultimately started their collapse of their own. So they're going to upset us. And then you had this news which came out yesterday, and that is that Joel Embiid is expected to miss an extended period of time after he undergoes a procedure this week to repair the injury in his left meniscus in that left knee, man. A recovery timeline is expected sometime shortly after this procedure gets done here, hopefully in the next coming days as soon as possible to get right. Initial reactions were the stinks. Obviously, I think my hope and everybody's hope, right, was that we'd get a report that they're just going to rest him for a period of time and bring him back after the All-Star break, or he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks, etc. Unfortunately, he is getting the procedure, which maybe is the best thing in the long term, over the long haul. But I still remain optimistic because I don't think this puts him down for the season. I think if you get this procedure done over the next couple of days within this week, he should be good to go come playoff time, Scotty. And that's all that matters to me. It's all that should matter to anyone in this fan base. Now, I understand there's questions. Is he close to 100% healthy? How fast can he get back into game shape? What does he look like with weeks and maybe 2 months at that time off of a basketball floor, right? In game action. We don't know. So that's obviously a concern, obviously a worry. But the ultimate goal is to what? Get Joel Embiid to the postseason as close to 100% healthy as humanly possible.
Yeah.
That could help achieve this goal. We'll get into the fact that can they stay afloat without Joel Embiid? They're 4-10 on the season without him at this point. You know, that's going to be a concern and a question mark. But my initial reaction was, okay, take a deep breath. This stinks. This stinks for him personally. But if he's good to go by the postseason, I remain optimistic.
Yeah, no, I feel the same exact way, although I would say that there's a lot hanging on, the timeline afterwards, after the procedure. Like, if he's out through the playoffs or out into the playoffs, that's when the concern, and it's not just for this season. It's not just for throwing away this season and, Embiid not being healthy in the postseason, not having a chance at a championship, but it's going to bring big decisions into question, man. Like, you have a lot of cap space on this team. You have a lot of expiring contracts. And if Joel Embiid somehow misses this postseason, man, you have to ask the question, do you move on from this guy? Can you find a trade partner to get a significant package? I'm not saying just trade him for shells, right? Like, but it's something that is on the brink of being at the top of conversation. And I believe as it should, man. I think it should be an option on the table when you talk about a guy that just can't stay healthy. 10 years of just saying, like, what if? And there's still the impact, like, with the procedure. He comes back by playoffs. It's what we want, and it's what I want. What I want, to be clear, I'm bringing up the trade. It's going to, that's going to be the talking point or whatever. But what I want holistically in reality, I want to win a championship with Joel Embiid as the leader of the team. That's the basic of what I want at the end of the line here. Right. But you have to be realistic. If we get through this stretch and he's not ready for the postseason, he doesn't get to play this postseason, they don't get out of the first round or even the second round, Now you're having these conversations like, what can we do on the other side of things?
Right.
But
I feel you.
I do agree. And the other caveat to the procedure and the timeline is like, if he comes back right before playoffs, is he just going to come back and look like MVP form? Or are we going to get kind of that Miami a few years ago, Embiid coming back from the face
He missed the last,
fracture, right?
17, 16
He just
games
didn't look the
that.
same,
For
right?
sure.
So these are all things that come into mind.
But we also do have to
said,
acknowledge that Joel Embiid is not this Joel Embiid. That was a much younger, less experienced, less talented basketball player.
Yeah, and Joel Embiid, at the end of the day, you'd rather have him than not, given the status.
I would rather have 60% healthy Joel Embiid on a basketball floor than not have him
with this team specifically.
Listen, it is an interesting point because I do feel you. It's something that I brought up after the Game 7 loss in Boston. Yeah. And it's the unprovenness in the postseason, and it's the injury concern. And then it's like you watch him play this year, and you forget all of that. You forget that conversation even happened because he's the best player in the world when he's on the floor. To your point, I want to win a championship with Joel Embiid. There might not be another player in this city that I want to get a championship with more. Bryce Harper, maybe, right? Like it's Bryce Harper and it's Joel Embiid for me. Those are the two. Okay. Yeah. Jalen Hurts is in the conversation, but those two players themselves are the ones I want to win a ring with, right?
Jalen hasn't been in the league, right? He hasn't been in these situations enough yet. We've watched
even though I can't say we were the closest with we were the closest with Jalen, although Bryce was right there. We know that.
Yeah.
But that's the ultimate goal. However, the main goal is to just win a championship.
Yeah.
And if
that's a great
doing something to get you closer to that goal or change the direction to get you closer to that goal in the future, then that's what you have to do. I don't think that's happening at all. Like, don't get me wrong. Even if he's out for the rest of the season or he comes back in their second round exit, I don't think that's happening. And nor do we want it to happen. I get your point. I wanted to say that first.
And I think the caveat there is, once again, it's not, it may not happen because the value on the market may not be there as well, right? He is an injured 300-pound 7-footer.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it just may be best for the Sixers. The grass is not always greener, right?
Correct.
Maybe you trade Embiid, he goes somewhere else, he stays healthy and wins a championship. Then we'll really be sick. So there is two sides to that conversation. I do agree with you.
Right. And not to mention, when you were hearing the previous package, remember when the Knicks were spiraling and those rumors were circling?
Julius Randle,
RJ Barrett, and first-round picks? No.
That's what I mean. The grass is not greener on the other side, right?
But I look at this particular injury, and I'm not okay with the idea of sitting him down for the rest of the season if there's a chance that he's good to go by the postseason.
Yeah.
Because you can't just punt this one away, Scotty. I'm being so serious. This is as close as I've felt since the Jimmy Butler year, and we know that this team is deeper, a lot deeper, right? Joel Embiid is a better version of Joel Embiid. Now, are they a better team? I don't know. That starting five was unbelievable, right? Yeah. But you get my point. Since 2018, since 2017, this is the closest it's felt to them being a legit threat to get to a conference title and maybe even beyond, right? All the pieces were there. Morey was going to be aggressive at the deadline. And that brings me to this. This is the conversation people are having now with, not knowing the timeline yet, with the trade deadline coming up later on this week. How aggressive is Daryl Morey actually going to be now? Are the Sixers going to alter course? Is he going to change his plans now that Embiid might miss the rest of the season or might miss the next month and a half, with that cap space, with those assets, with those expiring contracts coming up in the summer? And I still say, fuck no, it shouldn't change what he's going to do. Again, I know I sound like a broken record. What do people expect this summer now? Maybe Daryl's got something planned and pulls it out of his ass where it's not a free agent signing, but it's a trade they're able to make work because of the contracts and the money and the first round draft picks, and they bring over a superstar next to Embiid and Maxey in the offseason, and it's not anything we're looking at on paper right now. Maybe that could happen, but what I can look at in front of me are a list of free agents. Are guys you would think are available maybe in trade. This summer is the worst possible summer to be lining up with what the Sixers have open right now, man. So I want to ask you this question. A, do you agree? Should he alter course, or should Daryl Morey still remain aggressive at this deadline? Because to me, again, I understand you have to stay afloat, which means you still have to be aggressive at the deadline because you got to get better to stay afloat till he gets back. But as long as the plan is for him to be back when it matters most, you build for that.
Yeah. No,
but the other question I would ask you real quick, we've been through a lot of Joel Embiid injuries, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Is this the one that changes the direction of the Philadelphia 76ers the most? Or for the worse for the future because of what's the timing of the deadline and the unknown. I say that because if Daryl Morey does decide to hold his cards, and they're not aggressive, and we basically punt on this season, and we're hoping for this offseason that never comes and never transpires into anything much, that changes the direction of this team, man.
Yeah. No, I do agree, man. And I think, it doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, right, about Embiid being traded or anything like that. But I think you would have to move in the direction of building around Tyrese Maxey. And I think that makes the team look a little different. Like, you can still have Embiid in the picture. Maybe he's like he's called Maxey from the jump. He's called him the franchise, right? And we talked last week, how good is Maxey? What is his ceiling? What is his ceiling when the team is built around him, right? When the team is built around him. Like, if you look at the Brooklyn Nets, the way they're built, you put Tyrese Maxey with those players, that maximizes Tyrese Maxey. Now, right now, the team, in my opinion, is still built around Embiid. It's built to maximize Embiid when he's on the floor. But on the other end of things, on the defensive side of things, it's also built with Embiid as the anchor of the defense. He without Embiid, it's going to be painful to watch this team play defense. And that is where I will give Embiid probably the most credit here, because offensively, he's magnificent. He's probably one of the best scorers I've ever gotten the pleasure to watch. But scoring at the end of the day, in this day and age, it can be replaced in a sense. Defense and the presence that he presents in the middle on the defensive side of the ball is just something that, I don't know, his ability to be so agile at his size is like unheard of. But maybe that's also part of the problem as well, right? With the injuries and everything that's transpired with him. But aside from that, it would change your direction. It would be the biggest one. Like Marshawn said here, this is the year. Like, he's going to be 30 years old.
Yeah.
If his knees just continue to get tore up, like, what's next, right? Like, his knee wears out the rest of his body, and maybe it goes to his Achilles next. And then, like, I'm not wishing anything on anyone here at the end of the day. I don't want to bring up hypotheticals. But like, this is what happens. I've watched guys like Zydrunas Ilgauskas, right, struggle with foot injuries as a 7-footer.
It's the big fellas, bro. It is.
Yao Ming's career was cut short. He was similar to Embiid in the sense of his offensive ability.
Was Greg Oden's problem?
Greg Oden, number 1 draft pick, man. Like, this stuff does happen. And so then you present the question, like, what if Jimmy Butler tells Miami Heat, what if he tells Pat Riley, you go out and get Embiid this summer no matter what, and they start offering Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, first-round draft picks and whatever else for Joel Embiid? It's just something you have to think about. Like, you have to think about it. I'm not saying that you do it. You have to think about it. Like Marshawn Lynch said, we're going to get a good view of this team without Joel Embiid. But on the other side of that, we're also going to get a view of a team that's built around Joel Embiid without Joel Embiid. So that's the caveat there. As far as your question regarding the trade deadline, I'm not changing directions. I'm not changing the focus at the trade deadline, just like you said, because I'm not punting on this season. I think you have to still approach this with all you have. And I've seen the rumors, man. I've seen the rumors with Embiid. DeRozan, it doesn't sound like a great fit. Honestly, it doesn't. Without Embiid, it sounds like somebody who can keep you afloat. And if you get to the playoffs, he can get you a bucket. And at the end of the day, maybe that's all we can ask for right now is a DeMar DeRozan who can get you buckets right now, 20 plus a game for sure, right? Like a more assured version of Tobias Harris. You're going to get those 20 plus points a game. It's going to open up the floor for Tyrese Maxey to take him off the ball a little bit more. You can bring in an Andre Drummond along with him in a deal like that. That is something that I would be totally open to. Like I said, DeMar DeRozan, not my favorite fit by any means next to Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid. But as far as keeping this team afloat right now, and if you don't have to give up that much, like if it costs you Marcus Morris and Robert Covington in a draft pick, I would do it. I would do it, man. Or a Marcus Morris or a Robert Covington, Jaden Springer in a draft pick, or Robert Covington, Jaden Springer, Korkmaz in a draft, whatever. Like that's the type of deal I'm looking for here. Drummond sounds perfect to keep us afloat. We need a backup big anyways. He's on an expiring deal. But there's a lot of different plays out there that you can make in that same area of or caliber of players, right? So it's not just so focused on Chicago. That's just a great example of something that would work, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not approaching this deadline any differently, man. I'm with you.
Morey is
marketing, hell
like
yeah.
a pipe dream, but goddamn, I would love it.
Yeah, I mean, just watching him the other night.
But
I mean, even when Embiid comes back, he would be perfect. Like,
right.
Yeah.
The second part, though, no, I don't value the picks as much as most people anyway. Like, again, I'm trying to win a championship today, tomorrow, this year, next year. Like, I don't value the 25th pick in the first round. And I understand we got Maxey at the 20th, the 21st pick a couple years back.
Yeah.
Another one's not coming down the drain, right? And being plugged in right away and getting this team closer to a championship. I also think that the only thing that technically should, no doctor here, if Doc B was in the chat, he could tell me more about this and this procedure. But the only thing that should hold Embiid back if he's back before the playoffs or at the playoffs is conditioning. Like, for my knowledge, right, if there was a debate on procedure or just rest, and you decided to go with the procedure, you did so for the fact to shore up that knee.
Yeah.
Now you're going to miss more time from the procedure, obviously, but it shores up that knee. So to me, I don't think by doing this, he comes back and there's any sense of a knee injury.
Right.
I think he comes back and it's in shape, conditioning, not having probably, he's going to be able to shoot a basketball before then, but not being able to play in game, style. So I don't think that's a question at all. So no, I don't value these picks more now.
I'll just add a caveat to that as well. Now, this is a great question, and maybe we can dive back into this one too. But when I look at it, man, even if you have to bring him back for the first round and he just has to get his legs back under him for the first round, like he gets, maybe it's 2-3 weeks before the playoffs start. He's able to start conditioning, maybe a month before, right? Maybe it takes him a month to get back in shape, whatever the case may be. Then he gets to come back into gameplay in the first round, right? I think we can still win the first round matchup with Embiid at 75-80%. As long as he's trending towards becoming 100%, I think that is the key for me, right? Like bringing him back, whether it's the play-in, is he trending towards 100%, or are we stuck at 75-80, and that's where we'll be lucky to get to, right? Like those are certain things that we have to factor in. Like if he comes back with a ceiling of only getting back to 80% maximum, then that knee's not taken care of, right? If he comes back with the ability, a ceiling of 100% by second round, maybe it's mid-second round or something, then we know the knee is taken care of. It's resolved. Now we move forward. We just move forward with him getting back into shape. And I'm fine with that. I think we can work with that, right? We can get him back where he needs to before the second round. But Yeah, man. I don't know. The play-in is interesting because it's like you bring him back, and then what if you lose anyways? It's a one-game thing, right? Like, but if he's good to go, he's good to go at the end of the day.
I agree,
After a
and
surgery like
for
this, he's good to go. He's good to go.
From my
I would
understanding,
think,
that's what getting this procedure done now is supposed to do.
rather than
Yes,
letting
he's
it
going
linger.
to miss a lot more time than if the alternative was to just rest for a couple weeks, and it's a pain tolerance kind of thing, and then he gets the procedure done in the offseason or something. But for my money, you get this done now. Yes, you got to rehab it and rest and come back. But when you come back, that knee,
Yeah.
now you got to obviously get it back into game shape and all, but that knee, there's no more tear, there's no more nothing in there. So hopefully that's okay. And knock on wood, whether it's the same or a different injury in the same knee, remember how they said it didn't have anything to do with the other? Well, then the other injury gets to heal for a month and a half as well. You get what I'm saying? So I
that
just think as long
be
as he's
huge.
back by that time, which is the only thing that matters, you should not change your opinion or change your course at this upcoming deadline. I also look at this, man. Listen, they're 4-10 without him. They have yet to play a pretty solid game without Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
But I can't help but have to like almost beg people to understand how much more injured this team is than just the reigning MVP missing. Like everyone freaking out about the Sixers on Saturday afternoon against the Nets. And I get it. They look like they didn't even show up. Guys, they were missing 4 starters. 4. No Tobias Harris. No DeAnthony Melton. No Joel Embiid. No Nico Batum. KJ Martin had to play 20-plus minutes. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know what everyone expects, man. What do you expect this team to look like when it's Danuel House, Marcus Morris, Paul Reed, Mo Bamba? Furkan Korkmaz played 27 minutes. Jaden Springer played 26. What do you think they're going to do on a basketball floor together? Yeah. So, yes, he has to get healthy. But, Scotty, I have to believe in my heart of hearts, man, they're not a lot better. They're not at all, obviously missing him. But if they get everyone else back, they're still a good basketball team, which is why when you even bring in more reserves and more help at the deadline, it makes them an even better basketball team. This team doesn't get run off the floor. It's Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton, and Nico Batum play the other day. They don't get run off the floor in Portland if all those guys aren't missing and KJ Martin's playing 25 minutes. So I think like people just, Scotty, I don't think they're comprehending it, man. We're so wrapped up in this Embiid situation, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But God damn it, man. 4 starters. And I see outrage on Twitter about how they looked against the Brooklyn Nets. Are the Brooklyn Nets a good team? No, Scotty. But with how injured the Sixers are, do they have a hell of a lot more talent than the Sixers do?
No. I think part of the issue here, man, is just the Sixers and the way that they list injuries and the way that they report and communicate injuries. I think that's
are they trustworthy? Problem. I don't know.
Because Robert Covington has just been out for how long, and we just don't understand really like why. What a knee issue
at this point.
Yeah. It's the CIA Sixers, the way they report injuries, like the way it was reported about Embiid, the way it's still being reported. Like they elongated the communication. They could have just said he decided to have surgery.
Yep.
And he hopes to be back for the playoffs. Like that's all you really have to say. But they sit out here and they misconstrue every single diagnosis. Like DeAnthony Melton, he's dealing with a back injury all of a sudden. Like where did this come from? What game did this happen? Like how long is he going to be out, right? Like we get no timelines for these players. Nico Batum, like Tobias Harris is out with a flu again. He's out with a sickness again. Right. What's wrong with this guy? Like, so there's just a lot of stuff there, but I do agree with you overall. Like at the end of the day, if you don't have 4 of your starters, you're not going to be able to compete with a lot of teams in the NBA outside of guys like Maxey just having a 50-point game, right?
Like against
that's what it would take.
Correct.
Like literally it would take Tobias Harris having 30 and Tyrese Maxey having 30, or Tyrese Maxey in this game having 30 and Kelly Oubre going off for 30, right?
Yeah.
You're asking these guys to like step out of their element, whereas you add those 4 guys, 3 or 4 guys, you can even throw Rocco
and you add 2
option.
pieces at the deadline, or whatever the case may be, or a really good piece at the deadline. You're talking about a completely different team until he's back.
And like at the end of the day, Kyle Lowry is there. Now, as I've said since the report has been rumored, I'm not all in on Kyle Lowry as like the move, but it's a great like backup, like it's a great secondary move.
I've never been against the Kyle Lowry sweepstakes.
Someone else and then Lowry, it's great.
Yeah. In terms of a buyout, if he gets bought out and he gets brought in on the exception, like I get it. I've seen some. I get the age, and I get he's not the same scorer or high.
It's worth a shot, is what I should say. It's not great. It's worth a shot.
And I know I saw the argument made, and I believe it was by Sean Barnard, who's great. Brought up the point of maybe not bringing in Kyle Lowry because the way Patrick Beverley's been playing, and you have that kind of guy already. There's no need for Kyle Lowry. I don't view it the same. I think if I'm being honest, I think every team could use a Kyle Lowry off the bench, has a championship for our situation, won a championship with our head coach. He's a leader. He's a veteran. He can still shoot the ball from the outside. I mean, in the postseason, what's he going to play? A couple minutes? Like, I don't see. I don't get all the pushback to have just another body, another shooter. Like you said, Scotty, last year, Game 6. Does Kyle Lowry make one of those threes?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not against it at all. Now again, for the people listening right now, we're not suggesting Kyle Lowry is one of the pieces we're looking for at the deadline. It's just I've seen a lot of blowback and pushback against that decision, and I don't necessarily understand it.
Like, let's take like a Korkmaz or a Daniel House or something. Let's take one of those guys.
Daniel House is a perfect
and plug
example.
in a Kyle Lowry.
Yes.
I think we'll be in a better situation.
8 to 10 minutes a game potentially.
Yeah. So, and it could even be one of those things where you have Kyle Lowry, you have Patrick Beverley, and whichever one seems to be doing their thing tonight, right? Like you can go that route as well. It's great to have options. Once again, it's a secondary move. You need to bring in something else. They need something else. Like a Malcolm Brogdon. We've been hammering the table, man. DeJounte Murray, like any of these guys. Lauri Markkanen, those are the pipe dreams. The Mikal Bridges, those are the pipe dreams. But if they're available, explore it, man. Why? Why wait at this point? If you can bring in somebody, especially to help you stay afloat right now while Embiid is out, that's just it's like a win-win, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you should have done it anyways. But if this forces Morey to do it, then great.
It's funny. You said the word options, having more options. And again, I think it takes me back to my injury plagued statement. It's like when they were fully healthy, what did we love most about this team, Scotty?
Yeah.
The options that Nick Nurse had at end of games and within this rotation and how deep they were. And now it feels like we can't even put together a 5-man lineup at the end of the game. Why is that? Because of how injured they are. Like, I promise you add at the deadline and you get healthy, this team's back to being a deep-ass team. And then you just await, stay afloat, win some games, and wait for the MVP to come back. That's what I would do. And if he doesn't come back, man, like, honestly, like, here's what I don't get. As long as if you're not trading for anyone that's on a 2 or 3 year deal that's going to eat up some money in the summer, right? Why are people so obsessed with the first round picks in the summer? First round picks ain't got nothing to do with this cap space. Now, again, if Morey's plan is to turn that salary opening into a trade with those assets and that's who he's bringing in, then I understand it. But
I heard somebody on 97.5 the other day. They brought it up, and basically the idea is, what if Ant Edwards magically is just like, I'm done with Minnesota, and you have the resources to go out and get an Anthony Edwards. Like, that's just an example. It's not like that's just one player that you would obviously
I hear the example,
give up everything you have for.
I hear the example. That's not how you build a fucking basketball team. Okay. Well, do we live in fairyland? Do we live in 2K? Here's my problem with that, right?
Yeah.
You are being reactive. You're waiting for a domino to fall, the next shoe to drop, and you're waiting for something. And then you got to win the sweepstakes. Like, let's not act like the Sixers have 8 first-round draft picks in the future.
Yeah.
What are we working with? 2? We have 2 good
3,
first-round draft picks in the near future and some swaps. Like, let's not act like we're just stock loaded where we could go out and maybe beat someone out for a Kevin Durant if they really wanted him. So I don't like the idea of being reactive. I'm trying to win a championship. Expecting Joel Embiid to come back. Go be active. I don't like the idea of waiting for, oh, well, what if this person gets unhappy in their current situation and then Morey can. Maybe. But what happens when they don't? What happens when no one asks out?
Select Philadelphia as a destination.
Correct.
That's reality.
Because we've seen that movie before, haven't we?
Yeah.
So I hate that, man. That's not how you build a team. That's not how you build a team that was a game away from their conference finals last year. Was 5 minutes away from the conference finals last year. A team that's better now. A team that if he comes back at the postseason, let me remind everybody this as well for the people that think it's doomsday, okay? And again, maybe he's not back at the postseason. Maybe this is a lot worse than I'm imagining here. But I'm suggesting that he is, okay? He will be healthier this postseason than he was last year. Ain't that crazy? It's crazy, ain't it? Well, because what was he dealing with against Boston? A grade 3 or a grade 2 MCL sprain or whatever the case was. And he had another injury. He had two, the finger. He had a broken finger on a shooting hand or something.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Right. So my point is, procedure done. Tear fixed. Get back into shape as best as you can. He is healthier than he was last year when we thought we could get to a conference finals.
Let me ask you, is this the situation where you wish you had James Harden still?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, when you have James Harden, Maxey, and Tobias, it's like, oh, you can win maybe a game or two in a series. You can win maybe a first-round series with that team. But then when you have Embiid, it sounds great when you have Batum, Rocco, and Marcus Morris and all these other options. But when Embiid is taken out of that equation, would it be better to ultimately have Harden and then, I don't know, you fill in the whole – like Batum, Rocco, and Morris aren't playing right now anyways, right? So you would just have Harden at the end of the day with –
I don't know, man. I would say this. I still obviously, like you just brought up, the pieces in return from the Harden trade. And obviously
big-ass hypothetical. Like,
they were brought here to be around Joel Embiid. I get that. But he's missed, what now, 14 or 15 games? I believe they're 4-10, 4-11 in those times. I can't help – I'd have to do the research, but I can't help but go back and look at if they've played a single game without Joel Embiid fully healthy elsewhere. Not missing 2 other guys in that mix of sometimes they were missing Maxey and Tobias with Joel Embiid out. So my point is, I hear you. If you had Maxey, Harden, and Tobias, it sounds better. But what happens when you're missing Embiid, but you have Maxey, D-Melt, Batum, Oubre, Pat Bev, Marcus Morris, Paul, and then again, the deadline's in 4 days, 3 days. You add 2 more rotational pieces that can play. I think it wins you games, man. I go back to what was it, 2 years ago now in the fall or early winter when Embiid and Maxey were both out, I believe. Maybe not Max. Yeah, no, Maxey was out, and Ben obviously wasn't reporting. And Shake Milton and DeAnthony Melton were our backcourt for 6 games in a row, 7 games in a row. And the Sixers went 5-2. I mean, you go back and look at that depth and those teams, nowhere near this.
It has me wondering because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, man, I would really like to go out and get Malcolm Brogdon
Yeah.
or, go out and get like a DeJounte Murray. And then you ask yourself, well, are those guys better than James Harden is right now? Like, and then I go back to Daryl Morey, right? Like, and then, you just have it once again, we're not to that point yet, right? We're not in hindsight yet. But it is something that is popping into my mind is, Harden's shooting 41% from the 3-point line. He's averaging 17 points per game, 9 assists, right? For the Clippers, who are, arguably the best team in the NBA right now. It's just like, maybe we do come to regret that. I'm not saying we're at that point right now. But it is an interesting thought. Like, I'm sitting here thinking if we can get like a Malcolm Brogdon in here, that will help us stay afloat for the playoffs to get Joel back. Well, James Harden's better than Malcolm Brogdon, right? like that's where I'm at in my head right now. And I almost feel a little foolish for disrespecting James Harden.
I would say this.
To the extent I did.
I would say this, and I know we don't have much to hang our hat on since we haven't been out of the second round, and Joel has the same playoff issues, right? But let's see in the postseason.
Fair.
Because I definitely feel you, and it's such a reactionary thing to go back and forth on with your emotions and how things are looking at the time. But if you took us back a month, right, a month and a half, we won the trade.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl Morey.
Yeah.
Now injuries, they're winning.
Not seeing those guys play.
Now they won the trade, but give it 2 more months. Maybe they're not playing as well, and then we won the trade. So it is definitely
you're not lying.
It is a pain in the ass, bro, to check and see the Clippers beating the Nuggets and James Harden's 4 for 6 from 3 with 21 points. And it's like, man, yeah, you had a couple moments late last year, obviously the 2 playoff games, but I ain't forgetting how bad you were the other playoff games.
Yesterday against Miami, James Harden plays 42 minutes, 21 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds, 5 for 9 from the 3-point line.
Yeah, like, fuck you, dude.
Honestly. Like, fuck off, motherfucker. Against the Heat, too, right? Like the Miami fucking Heat in Miami. And he came ready to play, man. He didn't go out to the club the night before that one.
Yeah. But the other thing I was looking at, to go back to Marshawn Lynch's one comment about the play-in.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction now. And I know we're currently, what are we, the current 5 seed at the moment?
We're 5th. We're 1 game behind New York, 1.5 games behind Cleveland.
Okay.
3.5 above Indiana.
I'm going to say that the Sixers, as long as they get healthier, right? Like if they stay, with no Embiid, obviously, but Melton's back never heals, and Nico Batum is in and out of the lineup, and Kelly's in and out, back and forth. Then no. But if they get healthier, regardless of what happens at the deadline, the Sixers have nothing to worry about with the trade deadline. Yeah, I look below them, man. I look below them.
The only team, Indiana, if they can be healthy with Howard.
Yeah, but that's not even a play-in team.
Yeah. And then Miami.
That's a game above the play-in.
Miami's the only team down there that I could see like jumping up at some point and playing better basketball.
And meanwhile, the Sixers have 5 games on them at the moment.
Yeah.
Not saying that can't be overcome with over a little less than half a season
and
left.
I'll argue this, Dylan. Like, it's not even necessarily like the end of the world if Roko's out, right? Or even D-Melt. If you can just have Maxey and Tobias in the rest of these games, right? Yeah. Like those two, can we just make sure those two are good to go? Like if Tobias can go on Saturday, it helps you a lot in that game, man. Just having 2 of those guys, right? Like I'm trying to look at our schedule. So we got the Mavericks tonight, right?
Yep.
Mavericks, depends on how healthy they are, right? Like if they got Kyrie, if they got Luka, I'm probably gonna go with the Mavs, even on the road, but it should be a competitive game if Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris are playing. If you can get D-Melt back sometime this week to have that extra ball handler that can start next to Maxey, I think that's a big thing as well, just keeping Pat Bev on the bench. The Warriors after that's a team that's below 500 right now. It's still Steph and Clay and so on and so forth. It's a team below 500 right now. The Hawks, the Wizards, you should beat the Hawks. You should beat the Wizards. With Tobias and Tyrese Maxey, You should be able to beat the Hawks. You should be able to beat the Wizards. Cavs, that's going to be tough. Heat, tough. Knicks, tough. Cavs, tough.
There's a stretch
okay, well, this month is going to be horrid, but, going forward, the point I was trying to make until I saw our schedule there. Teams like the Hornets, the Wizards, the Bulls, the Hawks, you should be able to take care of business against teams like that. Against the Warriors, those bottom feeders out in the West, you need to be able to take care of business against them. It's going to be tougher against the likes of, Milwaukee, the top half of the Eastern Conference.
You got at Cavs, Heat, Knicks, Cavs, Bucks, at Boston.
That is going to be a monumental stretch, man.
And then even after, you got the Hornets slipped in to start March, at Dallas, Brooklyn, whatever, Grizzlies, whatever. Pelicans, at Knicks, at Bucks. Hornets slipped in again. Heat, at Suns, at Lakers, at Clippers, at Kings, Clippers. So the schedule is not all that friendly. I'll tell you this, though. Going to find a lot out about the you-know-whats on this team, okay?
Yeah. Tyrese Maxey specifically. I'm interested. I'm interested to see Tyrese Maxey. Can he answer a call this big?
Let me ask you this.
I'm not asking him to go out there and beat the Bostons of the world, but can you answer a call against the Miami Heat, right? No Embiid. It's the Miami Heat. You have Tobias. You have D-Melt. Can you answer a call against a team of that caliber? Yeah. A team that is not in the top half of the Eastern Conference right now, right? Can you answer a call against those type of opponents?
Let me ask you this, man. We just looked at that schedule and said, "Oh, hold on." Does that change Daryl Morey at all for the better for our direction? Swing him in our direction, right? Because I could understand the argument of if you looked at the schedule and there was a lot of Wizards, Hornets, Pistons, Hawks, stuff like that. And you could say, okay, well, we can stay afloat and not have to trade all these assets and, spend whatever and get him back. You look at that schedule and you go, if we don't get better, what happens to us?
Yeah.
I mean, we've just lost 5 out of our last 6 now?
Yeah.
So what happens to us if we lose 5 out of 6 over this upcoming stretch soon? What happens if we lose the next 2 and lose, 8 of 10 or whatever the case may be?
That's the funniest / wildest part of this situation is that we're not even going to have time to figure out if they are good enough to stay afloat. You just you're going to have to make sure that they're good enough.
Batum and Melton are out tonight. They're estimated to come back on the 7th against Golden State, but who knows?
That's what I was just looking up on covers.
And Tobias is a game-time decision. So to your point, you're not finding out tonight, what this team looks like healthy outside of Embiid.
Right.
I'm going to guess you don't even find out Wednesday. I'm going to say maybe one of them comes back, but I'm going to say you're still missing a couple pieces Wednesday. And then when you're at the deadline. So, no, you don't have any type of evidence to show you what this team could look like, even for a 5-minute spurt without Joel Embiid, but with everyone else healthy.
I'll say this. In these situations where you have Tobias Harris questionable, Nico Batum's out, right? Melton's not coming back. No more of these situations where if Tobias is ready to go tonight, maybe we just wait a little bit, right? Like maybe we wait a game and see if he can come back with Nico Batum and there's no more time for that. You have to go out and you have to try to win every single game here on out because there's going to be losses that you're not going to be able to account for ahead of time, right? There's going to be losses mixed in there that aren't the Bostons, the Minnesotas, the LA Clippers.
Exactly. Because by the way, they're not just going to sweep out the Hawks and the Hornets and the Wizards and all that.
Yeah,
they're going to lose a little bit in that sense too. So
they're gonna have to make up some ground.
Which ultimately means
interesting, man.
Which ultimately means you're gonna have to win games we wouldn't expect you to win to balance everything out. You're gonna drop games we think that you should win. You got to win a couple games that you should lose, and that's what we'll find out about this team.
That's the crazy thing about tonight. This is a great example of a game where it's not, it's not one that you necessarily should win, but it is a winnable game at home against the Mavs, a team that's been beat up. I'm not sure if Kyrie Irving is actually even playing in this game tonight. So just little things like that, you have to take advantage of these opportunities. And once again, like you said, Maxey, what are you made of? Like guys that there's not a ton of guys that are here past this season, right? Contract wise.
Yeah.
So what are you guys playing for? You're playing for your contract in your ability to stay with the team next year. Guys like Kelly Oubre is playing for his future, right?
That's another thing, man. Here's what these guys here's what I need these guys as a Sixers fan, knowing their future might not be long lasting here. Here's what I need them to realize. Like you just said, what are you playing for? Well, you all play to win, right? I would hope that's first and foremost. But you also are playing for your money and for your future, okay? Now, obviously, with Embiid out and 30 more games or however many more games, you have time to show what you can do. Some on a national stage, some not. However, you know what would be a way of getting yourself more money? Getting this team to the playoffs.
Yeah. Being
able to showcase yourself in the playoffs. That's what I need them to realize, right?
Like honestly,
Kelly Oubre Jr., you're not just going out to score 25 a game in the regular season.
Yeah.
Go play in the playoffs. Show you're a winner. Average 16 on efficient shooting in the postseason with the Sixers, and you will get yourself a bag in the offseason.
That's the thing. Oubre, like even in the regular season, if Oubre can like increase his scoring output to 20 plus, that looks a lot better on the Sixers than it does on the Hornets. Like even without Embiid, like it looks a lot better that he can be a guy on a team that can get a team to a playoff or
on a team that's winning games,
right?
Yeah.
But he's not the only guy on the team that's like that. Marcus Morris playing for a future. Robert Covington playing for a future. Nico Batum playing for a future, right? DeAnthony Melton, what does your next contract look like? Most likely isn't going to be in Philadelphia. But you need to figure out what your contract's looking like. He's coming off 2 seasons now with back injuries.
Yep.
Who's really paying like top dollar even for a bench, like a role piece like that? Like these guys got a lot to play for, even outside of winning, even outside of like getting Embiid back healthy. So there's a lot of motivation here, man. But I pulled up this top 10 trade candidate list from CBS, man, and I just wanted to get a glimpse of who they think are the most likely candidates just to be traded in general, not candidates for the Sixers. Who is going to get moved? DeJounte Murray's number 1 on that list. Doesn't feel like we're going to go after him, although be more than open to it. Bogdan Bogdanović, number 2 on the list from Atlanta. Obviously, we've talked about him. Would love to have a floor spacer like that, even without Embiid, right? Somebody next to Maxey that can space the floor. They got Zach LaVine. Obviously, he's out for the rest of the season. No good in that. Bojan Bogdanović from Detroit. I'm more open to him without trading Tobias at this point. I just don't feel like Tobias is moving, and unless it is like a bigger deal.
Not to mention, how much better does that make you without Embiid?
Exactly.
Does that even make you better without Embiid? Like I don't know.
Exactly. Kyle Kuzma, he's interesting, right? I don't think we're going to explore that. Jeremy Grant out of Portland, he's another interesting piece there.
Process Sixer.
We already know Malcolm Brogdon. Bruce Brown up in the Raptors. We haven't heard much about him lately. PJ Washington, that's not going to really move the needle. And Luke Kennard, not going to move the needle. Dorial Finney-Smith, that's a guy I would like as far as like a 3-and-D wing. I don't know. It's just interesting going through those names, thinking about what would fit well in the Sixers without Embiid. But then also still good enough when Embiid is back. And those are the type of players that I'm looking for.
I would say this, Scotty, man. If the Sixers get healthy, you give me one of those guys, Bogdan, Bojan, Jeremy Grant, whatever the Brogdon, whatever the case may be, and you get me a viable starting center for the time being.
Yeah. We're in good shape.
They're going to win games, and that's all you need to do to stay afloat. They're not gonna win 7 straight. They're not gonna win 9 of 10, anything like that. They're going to be an above 500 team.
Yeah.
Here's the funniest part. If the Sixers just play 500 basketball the rest of the way, what's that put them at on the year? Let me see. What are they? 30 and 18. 30 and 18 brings you to 48. So that gives you 34 more games, 17. So 47 and 35, that would put them at. That's just 500 basketball.
Yeah.
They overachieve a little bit, they get to 50 wins.
Yeah. And we know 50 wins gets you a top 6 seed in the East the last couple of years.
Well, 50 wins used to get you a top 3 seed in the East.
Yeah,
so
literally. Yeah.
Let
me ask you this. Do you honestly think that Daryl Morey is going to do what he needs to at this deadline? Like, in your gut, do you feel it?
I would say I still think he's active, but I have a lot more skepticism and less faith that he's going to do what's needed at the deadline.
I feel like it's going to be underwhelming.
Yeah. All right, how about this?
Like, my gut feeling feels like it's
not going to happen. The deadline's what, Thursday afternoon?
Yeah.
You'd have to hear by Wednesday
something.
Joel Embiid's plan.
Fair. Yeah, no timeline.
If you were still in the dark about the timeline of his return and if it's at all possible,
he's not
then I think it changes his plans. But listen, from what they read, like I think Woj quote tweeted, John Clark quote tweeted his own tweet. John Clark's being told that this is not ending Joel's season. And to me, that's the bottom line. We don't have to go any deeper than that.
Yeah.
He's going to be out a while. We know this. But if it is not ending his season, and I don't mean, he could come back in the second round.
Yeah.
That might end his season.
Yeah.
Because if they had to play the Knicks or the Cavs or the Heat or whoever in the first round.
That's a big part of it. Like, he needs to come back even just a little bit before the
game
first
one.
round.
Game one or two of the first round, he has to be back.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. If he can get worst case scenario, if this is worst case scenario, he can get conditioned in the first round. Yeah. Then that's the perfect place.
To me, that's end of story. I don't need to hear any more information. You do what's needed at the deadline, Daryl.
That's best case for all we know, but that's what I would need in order to push all my chips to the table at the deadline. I need to know that he could be back at the latest by that point, right? Yep. Like, not the earliest. I need to know.
Here's my thing, man. I don't, and listen, they are very CIA-ish, keeping things under wraps, and not really keeping things under wraps, just not being upfront with most things, which is frustrating us. They better not be sitting on their hands at all this week. Joel Embiid needs to be having this procedure done by tomorrow.
Yeah, like today.
Like literally done by today or tomorrow. Like you made this decision yesterday afternoon or whenever they made this decision. Within the next 2 days, that needs to happen, and then you start the plan. Like, you know what I mean? What do we need a week for? What do we need 5 days? No, you get it done now, and let's figure out the timetable.
I just know Embiid, he's got to be so blown, man. I do. I do feel for him, man. I feel for him like a mother sucker.
I agree, man.
Not to curse too much on here this Monday morning, but I feel for him, man. It's just got to be frustrating as hell. It's got to be frustrating as hell to see, different guys. Like Giannis is a 7-footer. He's able to stay, fairly healthy throughout his career. Yeah. Like there's just different examples of different guys that, just get lucky. Or
what sucks though? And listen, the perception is not fair of him league wide, but I do think about it as a fan, and no fan should laugh or be happy that any player of any team is hurt, right?
Yeah.
But I do think about it from the inside, from our perspective, man. Like, if you don't like Embiid, if you're one of the people that don't like him, which your reasons are already ridiculous, but I could see where this point would be like semi-valid and be like, dude's always hurt. Like if we weren't a fan of another player around the league that was constantly hurt and every year, not that we're laughing, but like, there it is. The shoe dropped. He's hurt every year. Couldn't be my guy, but that's what we would. It's at least probably what I would be saying. Like if I can't think of a player, obviously, but I'm just saying if there was a quarterback, or if there was a dude that people loved and adored,
a pitcher,
but I didn't get it, and he was hurt every single year, I'd be like, there it is. Yeah. That's kind of like it sucks, man, and I feel for him, but it's like, God damn it, it's every year. It
man.
Never fails. And then, like we said, this one, this is almost like the worst one. Not only because he's about to be 30, not only because it's another thing on his knee, not only this and that. This is probably going to be the most long-term healing process injury he's had to go through out of all of them. The face was what? 16, 17 games? I mean, you're looking at legitimately 30 plus games
coming
here.
back. Yeah. I know what you mean, because he's had like the torn ACLs, so it's like he's had longer recovery times. But like in season, this is going to be the longest time.
Like Scotty, he legitimately might miss 30 plus games.
Yeah,
and he's already missed 14 or 15.
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning, man. I got a shower this morning. You know, I'm doing the whole Monday morning. Let the shower run over
thinking
my
about
face.
Joel Embiid in the shower. I get it.
Joel Embiid's out. I got the hot water running over my head, and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, what do teams think of when they get us in the postseason? You know, like Boston last year when they see the Sixers strutting into town. It's like, in their minds, are they just thinking like they'll either choke or Embiid will get injured magically somehow? Like how do you not believe that? Like the Miami Heat a few seasons back, right? Like the Miami Heat coming in, it's MVP caliber Embiid and Harden and Maxi's coming out of nowhere. Nah, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, like we're dogs. We're gonna come in here and we're gonna shut these frauds up. Like that's how I would like everything that is said negatively about the Sixers is really everything I would say about players that I don't like as well. So I don't know, man.
So speaking of my man Sean Barnard, as we're live here, this is about 10 minutes ago. Shams, this is in the quote of the video. If a full repair is needed in surgery, that's going to be a significantly longer recovery time period. They won't know until the doctors go in there, but at minimum 1 to 2 months. So they're going to operate not knowing if they have to fully repair it or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So do you know what this just made me feel? A, worse for him coming back, and also B, worse that Daryl Morey is going to stay aggressive at the deadline.
Because 2 months, let's say worst case scenario, 2 months, it's February. That's what? February, March.
You come back in the beginning of April. When's the playoffs start?
Like right around that time, I think. April. You got 7 games in April. 7 regular season games. The 14th is the last.
The play-in is scheduled for April 16th to the 19th, and the playoffs are set to begin April 20th. So 2 months is still fine.
2.5. You could even, you could stretch it to 2.5 months even.
But that was minimum.
That would
if
be
a full repair is needed,
it's 3 to 6 months, right?
Now we're looking. He didn't say, but we're looking at something much worse.
Yeah. It still remains the same though, and I like what Sean Barnard said. Maybe this came out before. This quote might have came out before that news dropped. How long ago did that news drop?
It just was posted 10 minutes ago.
Just posted. Okay, so this quote. It's funny because like this is still where I'm at. Like if there is any chance that Joel Embiid comes back for the postseason run, you do everything in your power to absolutely give this team a chance to win a championship. Yeah, I still am there, man. Like I would need to know. But if you're going in, like you said, it needs to be over the next day or so, and we should know that for short time.
Especially now that the doctors don't even know what's needed.
Yeah,
like
that's crazy.
So like you got to get this done now.
I don't know. That's crazy.
That's just confusing to me. I'm no surgeon, man. But like you took the MRI, there's a noticeable injury, noticeable tear, whatever. How do you not know the specifications of the surgery until you're in the knee? Don't you get an MRI? If it's don't you get an MRI? It shows you the details of the tear, where how.
If I play this Shams clip, do you think we'll be able to hear it well?
Hold on. I'll pull it up on Twitter.
Yeah,
That's
pull it
actually
up,
a smart thing. I don't know
so we
why I
can
didn't do
listen to
this.
it. Because it's not gonna sound right coming out of our mouths at the end of it doesn't really. I don't know if Shams knows what he's talking about all the time. So
Correct. Well, he did say his season is in jeopardy. That's one of the clips. But hold on.
interesting.
So let me pull this up here. And this will kind of end our show here on a Monday, guys. But this is the latest update on Joel Embiid's injury.
We're kind of waiting to see what the deal was with Joel Embiid, Shams, and then you reported over the weekend that he is going to have a procedure. Tell us more about that.
Joel Embiid has a meniscus tear in his left knee. He had multiple evaluations, doctoral consultations. He went through decision-making on whether you rest and rehab this meniscus injury. It's a displaced flap of the meniscus. That's a type of tear. But he decided to undergo surgery very soon. I'm told that the hope is that Embiid misses 1 to 2 months. That's the best case minimum scenario, and that would dictate a potential return late in the season. Only the severity of the tear, the procedure itself will determine exactly how long he's going to be out. If a full repair is needed in Sergio Michel, that's going to be a significantly longer recovery time period than just 1 to 2 months. And this is absolutely brutal for the Sixers because now Joel Embiid will no longer be eligible for MVP, but even beyond that, the way he was performing this year, he was on pace to be an MVP. He was on pace to be the scoring title yet again this season. His season is now in jeopardy. We know all along this year, I've said it, Joel Embiid has only been focused on wanting to win a championship, being healthy for when it matters most, and that's the playoffs. And he's been managing his body. The Sixers have been managing his body for that. And for it to fail on him now, it's obviously a devastating time for him and the Sixers. They will have a chance. If Joel Embiid's able to make it back late this season, they're going to have a chance. They won't know until the doctors go in there, perform that surgery, and see exactly how long Joel Embiid will miss. But at minimum, 1 to 2 months.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, full tear, fully repaired, season over. Not fully repaired.
Yeah.
Could be back before the playoffs. And we're just saying by the playoffs.
Let me throw this to you. What's our luck?
Out for season.
Yeah.
1,000% out.
I'm trying. I want to be optimistic. I want to believe that it'll be back, but it's just it just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah. And here's the craziest part too. We're sitting here like, oh, what should Daryl Morey do at the deadline? Well, as long as this procedure is done before the deadline by Wednesday, and it's the story's out, full repair or not, Daryl should have his answer.
Yeah.
And our luck, well, not only will he be done for the rest of the year, it'll be before the deadline, out for season. You're not going to do anything at the deadline.
Yeah.
Hell, you might trade. You might sell a little bit at the deadline.
Yeah, you might. Maybe that's time to sell Tobias Harris, man. I don't know. That is interesting. Actually, things could flip on the other end. I think it depends how much belief in house, right? With Nick Nurse, what is he willing to do? What is Tyrese Maxey what is the belief? There's a lot of different factors in there, but this thing could flip upside down so quick.
Did you catch the one thing he said? Man. I hated the one thing he said, dude. About
the MVP.
No, that was just funny. That he's like, this is terrible for the Sixers,
or that his body is failing him. Because I feel like the Sixers and Embiid failed his body.
Exactly. He said they've been doing everything. The Sixers and he have been doing everything to get him to. Really?
Yeah, that's not.
Why the fuck did he play in Golden State?
Yeah, I don't know who you blame. I'm trying not to blame. I heard guys on the radio this morning blaming Nick Nurse. I don't know where that call comes down from. I don't think that Nick Nurse is a doctor.
There's no way you can blame Nick Nurse, bro.
That's going to come out and say, Embiid needs to be out tonight. No, he has a medical personnel that tells him that.
Correct. And he has say so on his status as well. So, first of all, it's Embiid and the medical staff's fault. Now, if you want to make the argument that Nick Nurse, the head coach, was watching him operate,
should have just benched
to start
him
the game and said, yo, dude, pop a squat. But again, we're talking about the NBA, man.
Yeah.
This isn't college basketball. Man. This isn't high school. I mean, come on. Our head coach, if the MVP says I'm playing, I'm okay to play.
Yeah.
The head coach isn't going to say you're done for the night.
They just got fined what, $75,000 for the
for not listing him on the report. Now,
Denver
by the
game?
way, how fucking stupid do you look, NBA?
Yeah.
Just fine,
Yeah.
as if they were just covering up
give
him.
That back?
Like,
y'all gonna give that money back, or
how about you double my money? How about you give it back and double my fine? Okay?
Man, oh man. So at least we know at the end of this show, Dylan.
Yeah.
By Wednesday's show, hopefully we have like a.
Well, let me tell you something, Scotty. By Wednesday's show, we better know.
Yeah.
What happened, and what the timetable is, because I'm going to be very, very annoyed if that surgery is not done by then.
Yeah, and then the trade deadline passes, you don't make any moves, you say, "Oh, we held our hands because we didn't know."
Yeah, well, and then he returns in a month.
Then he returns, and you put yourself in like a 7 seed, and you're playing the Boston Celtics or the Bucks the first round, right? Like that's the type of stuff that would be malpractice that can't happen. That's why they need to get this done as soon as possible. Figure out what the hell the timeline is, and make sure they make the right steps moving forward.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm just dreading that Woj bomb.
Out for season.
Yeah.
It's the worst nightmare, man. It's the worst night. It's honestly, it's insane that we can laugh right now, right? Like it is insanity doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Nah, Marshawn. I don't know if we can do another hour of speculation on Embiid's knee.
I'll tell you what.
What's Maxi's ceiling? That's a convo for Wednesday.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. If the Phillies go out and sign Jordan Montgomery or Cody Bellinger, I'll give you another hour one day.
Then we can get excited, right?
That probably isn't happening, even though it was rumored over the weekend around the league. But we'll see. Do something. I mean, come on. Like, pitchers and catchers are in like a week or two. Like, give me something to feel better about this roster. Not like that's where we'll end the show here. Went to try to preview some Phillies talk coming up shortly. Like, you guys, we already know what this roster is. It's an NLCS to World Series roster, as is. But to just not try to get better.
Yeah.
After you're already all in. Look at the money you spent over the last 2 or 3 years. Why we're just going to sit on our hands now?
Like all we're asking is for like marginal improvements too. It's
First
not like
of all,
we're asking.
Here's the thing that's killing me, right? I would love another starter. Like to me, you can't just run things back with Nola at the 2. Rangers, I don't think you want to talk about injury history. I don't think Rangers dependent enough for a full season. You got Taijuan Walker, you got Christopher Sanchez. That's nice. There's some depth there. I get it, but like we know the issues you can run into with this rotation. I need a guy, a 2/3 that can separate Wheeler from Nola and Ranger and so on, right?
Yeah.
But the bullpen, man, I'm watching bullpen piece after bullpen piece after bullpen piece fly off the board here to teams that just aren't that relevant.
Yeah, they don't need it.
And we're sitting here like, dude, we need some bullpen relief.
Yeah.
And just not
I
doing
agree,
it.
man.
So,
how do you feel about Hector Neris? I saw some people having a little bit of a fit over that. I think
well, I mean, I would have loved to have Hector back, but dude got a lot of money that
No, he did?
No, I was not. Yeah. They threw a lot of money Hector Neris' way. So no, I was not giving Hector Neris that money.
Yeah, I must have had that wrong then. That's not bad, but
we'll see.
Something like that, right? Like you just need to improve in the margins. Something.
Right. The one thing you might have saw was the Orioles,
young guys like O'Kirkring or Orion or whatever.
Orion Kirkring. Yeah.
Yeah. So it I get it. They're relying on some of those young arms to come in from the minors, but championship caliber teams don't do that. Right?
Correct.
Like we need to do something to improve in the margins here. It doesn't make sense, really.
The thing you might have seen was the Orioles did trade for Corbin Burns over the weekend.
I did see that,
and absolutely
Milwaukee's like selling,
fleeced they brought the hell out of the Brewers. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense what Milwaukee's doing. Good for the Orioles. Like if they're There are brothers.
See, that's a good point, because that's exactly what I thought in the moment. I'm like, oh well, the Orioles had a great season last year. They're trying to make some leaps and bounds, to get better.
No.
Let me ask you this, because like I haven't been paying attention super close to MLB free agency as like a whole. Like, what about teams like the Diamondbacks? Have they like done anything? Like a team
the Diamondbacks. Yeah, it's been a minute. The Diamondbacks have gotten a lot better. Hold on.
Just curious, like some of the teams that we played last year, like the Braves are going to be the Braves, but I'm sure they've probably improved in the margin.
Yeah, this was earlier. So I mean, this is back in December, so I don't know if they've done much, but the article is D-backs dominating offseason and aren't done yet. Trying to remember who they brought in. 1 second. That's right. They acquired Eugenio Suarez from the Mariners at third base in a minor league deal. Oh, and they signed Erod. That's right.
Damn.
Eduardo Rodriguez, the pitcher from the Detroit Tigers. That was one of the main targets out there. So you had an already very good.
They got a nice little stable of
added to that. There, brought in a power bat at third base. They re-signed Gurriel in the outfield. Are they dominating the offseason? No, I believe that crown would go to the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah,
but they improved. And I look at that, and the Braves improved, right? Added to their staff. Like, come on. Come on.
What are we doing? There's options still out there. That's the good part, right?
Absolutely,
man. Options. There's plenty out
there. I had this conversation yesterday. I know we're going down a rabbit hole, and we're about to wrap up. But, like, Montgomery, I would love. Like, just won a ring, has postseason experience, a reliable guy, right? Would love to bring him in. Maybe he is option number one, target number one.
Yeah.
But Blake Snell's still on the board.
Snell, yeah.
And I feel like the longer he waits and the more people that drop out of the Blake Snell, the more teams that drop out of those sweepstakes, the less money you're going to have to throw his way. Now, he's still going to get it back, but less money, right? What are you going to tell me, man? Like, he's unreliable. He can't get through. Right. He can't get into the 6th, 7th inning. Dude, the 2-time Cy Young. Leads the league in Ks. Yeah, he walked a lot. Guess what? He also had one of the lowest ERAs in baseball. So he walked a lot, but got out of those jams a lot. There's people that say he's not built to pitch in a city like this on the East Coast that cares so much. He'll fold under pressure. Maybe, man, give me a rotation. Yeah. Give me a rotation of Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, and Ranger Suarez. Just do it for me. What do you? He's going to wear on your bullpen. You know who wears on your bullpen? Having Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker, and Christopher Sanchez at the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be a little deeper. You have a 6th starter, whatever. All those guys throw 5 innings. So let's stop with the bullpen stuff.
That's the thing that is bothering me about the offseason, because that's the one thing I wanted them to do. Like, Aaron Nola, I obviously wanted to bring him back, like, regardless, because you don't want to deplete the staff further.
Right.
But I was hoping that we could keep Nola and add just something on top of it, man.
And I think when you watch the last 2 postseasons, as great of runs that they've had, not just with the bats, but with the arms, right? Like Wheeler and Nola, 2 years ago when we went to the World Series in Houston, were great throughout that run. And then all of a sudden, Nola hit a wall and Wheeler's arm gave out. Yeah. And they got beat up in the World Series. Hell, Nola got beat up in the NLCS 2 times.
Yeah.
But you go to this year, right? Nola had what? 2 starts, the Miami start and a start against the Braves where he was lights out. And then he sucked in every single game in the NLCS.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. It's just, it's not, man. I mean, and let me ask you this, right? You watched how Rob Thompson managed Ranger Suarez in the postseason last year. Now, he's at fault for that. But you also know he doesn't think they even have 3 starters in a series.
Yeah. Like, you can see by the way he operated with the rotation. Like,
right. So you cannot run back with the thought of Ranger Suarez being in number 3 because the manager was throwing him 4 innings. So, yeah, they have to do something.
It's got me thinking, man. I wanted to look up the numbers before I, made any assumptions, but it's just almost like if you were going to do that, like, why not? If you were going to basically just make sure you shore up your number 2, why not go out and try to get a better number 2 then, right? Like, that's where I feel like I'm going to get to that point in that conversation. If they don't add anything to Nola and Wheeler, is like, okay, if you want to go that route, then you need to make sure your number 2 is a lot more shored up than Aaron Nola then, right? Like, these are the conversations. Like, is Jordan Montgomery, could he come in and be your number 2? And should he have been the number 2? You just throw the money to him in the first place.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, is he a better number 2 than Nola in the first place? And then you fill in the margins.
Yes!
Like, did you make you made that mistake?
You know who's going to tell you no? You know who's going to tell you he's not a better number 2 than Aaron Nola?
2 of them, then you should have moved on from Nola and brought in 1.
You know who's going to tell you he's not a better option than Nola? The calculators. And then,
Yeah.
Nola with his innings and who was just the number 1 or number 2 on the World Series winner and was dominant in the 2 starts he threw in the World Series? That's right. It was Jordan Montgomery. Who shit his pants the last 2 postseasons? That's right. It was Aaron Nola. Now, I know I'm coming down harsh on Nola and sounding like I don't even want him back. I'm glad he's back, but not as my number 2. I want Aaron Nola to be our number 3, or I at least want it to be a conversation. Maybe he throws game 2, but 2 and 3 are basically even, if you want to call it even, whether it's him and Montgomery, him and Snell. But it cannot be Wheeler clear 1, Nola clear 2, and then whatever 3 through 5.
Whatever else. Yeah.
So to end the show now, just saw this tweet before we wrapped up. This is to go back to Joel Embiid's injury. This is from an orthopedic surgeon, Nicholas Denouble, MD, Scotty. All right. Now, it's a long tweet, so I'm going to try to trim it down as best as I can. But he said, Joel Embiid update. Per my prior posts and my recommendations, it appears Joel Embiid will be having arthroscopic surgery to deal with his, quote, flap tear lateral meniscus. Correct move, as those types of tears will not heal and will worsen over time, especially in a big guy with repetitive high-impact loading, necessitating even more meniscal removal. Only thing I don't understand is Sixers saying he will be out, quote, extended period of time. If the meniscus is trimmed and flap removed, 20-plus minute procedure through tiny incisions, then surgery will usually be relatively quick. Average 6 to 8 weeks, some sooner, some longer. I would hope 4 to 6 weeks. And if he works hard and maintains conditioning during recovery. If, however, meniscus is repaired/stitched, something I would not typically recommend, then recovery would be prolonged. Meniscus is a slow healer and no running for 4 months. And sometimes the meniscus doesn't even fully heal. So hopefully just a quick trim with a speedy and not, quote, extended recovery. Stay tuned.
Interesting.
All right. There it is.
It's a really great side and a really bad side. The bad side, from the bad side, it sounds like, like you said, if that is what happened, if it's a complete tear, if it needs to be repaired, then the question extends a lot further than just this season. Yeah. Right. Yep. Because it sounds like he could re-injure it very easily or recurring, and permanent damage could be done. And that is obviously worst case scenario. And that's when you have to start exploring like worst case scenario options. Right? Like, And then I just saw Detroit Pistons remain interested in Tobias ahead of the deadline, man. He must have something on them, but to your point, man, like with Embiid missing time now, a move with Detroit, which we could have said before was Bogdanovich potentially. Right. Do you even want to do that? Does that make you better with no Embiid for a month or two? You know, right. Maybe they just sell him to Detroit for, a cap filler. And like if Embiid is out for the season, like I said, things could flip very, very easily. And all of a sudden you're selling at the deadline rather than buying. Correct. But anyway, the best, man. That is going to wrap up this long Monday morning show here on the Phaithful Phanatics show. As always, on the DSM-Media Philadelphia YouTube channel. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We appreciate each and every one of you in the comment section every day here with us. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your week.